foreign investments will be crucial to sustain long-term economic growth for the country. And because of this, Congress, particularly the House, has been pushing for the approval of two economic measures. Resolution number 1, authored by Speaker Feliciano Belmonte, is to amend restrictive economic provisions of the Constitution and the Fair Competition Law. Their approval will provide the boost to attract foreign direct investments. And joining us tonight on NewsLife is Mr. Sergio Ortiz-Luiz, Chairman Emeritus of the Philippine Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Good evening, sir, and welcome to NewsLife.
Good evening.
Sir, to start us off now, what impact will amending the economic provisions of the Constitutions and the approval of the Fair Competition Law will be in terms of bringing in foreign investments here in the Philippines?
Well, definitely we are constricted by the fact that we have economic provisions that are restrictive in our Constitution, and that is in effect. I think we're the only one. We are one of the two in this area of the world who has it. Indonesia and us, but Indonesia was able to solve it by some other aspect, not changing the law. They were able to put up a parallel land or property agency that when you want to come in and own property, they make it appear like you're leasing it, but in effect you have really bought it. No? And there is an exit mechanism for the investors. If you are looking at areas where you will invest, and all things being equal, and we are not exactly the prime choice now, being in the low end of the foreign direct investment, I would as an investor would go for somewhere where I can own property where I will put my multi-billion factory, for instance. No? So that's an advantage. But that doesn't mean that I think that everybody in the business sector supports the mode that they would like to do now in changing this by inserting a provision unless provided for by law. No?
Let's say in the absence of being able to actually change the economic provisions of the Constitution, are there any other ways to actually create a better business environment in the Philippines wherein we can actually attract more foreign investors and also actually even help our local businessmen, particularly the SMEs?
Well, aside from the fact that the provisions restrict us, no, there are other aspects which I think we have to correct the impression of people there. No? Number one, some of the questions we ask because of our coverage in the media is peace and order. Number two is infrastructure, and they are wondering why we're so slow in trying to be at par with our neighbors in infrastructure. Number two, of course, is the ease of entering and exiting if you have to, no? The red tapes that are still prevalent. And there's a lot of other areas that we have been trying to solve. You know? We have improved in our national competitiveness in a lot of ways, but in areas where it counts probably for most big investors is we have not done so. Among others, we have to live with the fact that there were a lot of contracts that we have been cancelled. Right or wrong, the fact is we've cancelled contract with Germany, with contract with China, with cancelled contract with Belgium.
Why is that so? Why did that happen?
There were perceived anomalies or maybe real anomalies. But to me, personally, I don't think we should be cancelling contract. Let's punish those who are involved. But if there are other third parties, especially for investors involved, I think we should not do that because it's very hard to outlive that image that we change rules or we change rules in the middle of the game.
Now, at this point in time, how do we fare in terms of our with regards to our ASEAN neighbors?
Well, if you mean the ASEAN integration,
yes.
All of us have problems. I don't think anybody can say that everybody's perfectly prepared for it. No? But my feeling is, although there will be no more surprises, 99% of the tariff has been drawn down. No, wala nang iniintay sa tariff. So it's the actual competition when push comes to shove that will, My real worry is our SMEs. We have 99.6% of our enterprises are micro, small, and medium in our own definition. And the biggest disadvantage they have is that their bankability is very low. They could not access credit easily. We did pass a few years back a Magna Carta for SME, which basically allocating 10% of the portfolio of banks to SMEs. It did not. The law did not work. So the expiry of law about 5 years ago, and it didn't work because Bangko Sentral came up with a substitution or alternative mode of compliance, which is they sold T-bills notes, and that is considered as compliance by the banks.
Up until now, even the SMEs are having still a bit of problems in terms of operating here in our own country. But moving forward, sir, now we have ASEAN integration coming up next year. Now, foreign observers have seen the Philippines as actually a good place for foreign investments to come in. We've had several upgrades. Our competitiveness have been seen as getting better. But are we actually maximizing this? How do we now translate it for getting even more business here in the country?
Well, our upgrades are fine. But we are not heavily borrowing now, no? So in terms of cost, that would have saved us a lot. And unless you can convert these upgrades into foreign direct investment, no, it doesn't really amount to much. It's mostly good feel good about it. But there are other factors aside from this that will dictate whether foreign direct. Those are the things that we should solve.
But will changing the economic provisions in the Constitution greatly help?
It will greatly help, but a lot of people in the business sector who are supporting this initially would prefer that the mode provided for in the Constitution be followed. A lot of people are afraid that by a Congress mere insertion of a phrase can change the Constitution. That while we probably trust the present Congress, it would mean that in the future, any Congress can change any part of the.
It will open a lot of things.
And that makes the Constitution just a piece of paper that can be changeable.
And finally, sir, next year it's ASEAN integration. We also have the APEC summit. Now, what are the next steps? What do we need to do to actually get us to where we want to be next year?
Well, number one, I think it's important that we speed up infrastructure now, because they will be looking at it, and that a better coverage of media, and unfortunately our media are only in English regarding peace and order, and perhaps a showing of some of the qualities of our SMEs that are worth for foreign direct investment to come in.
I guess it's still a lot to do. But on that note, thank you very much for joining us here tonight at NewsLife. That was Mr. Sergio Ortiz-Luiz, the Chairman Emeritus of the Philippine Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.